I know the feeling. You see a gaming rig on a storefront that looks like a dream machine, the screenshots are glossy, the specs are flashing like a neon sign, and you picture yourself crushing the latest AAA title at buttery smooth 144 frames per second. Then you finally pull the plug, set it up in your cramped apartment, and realize the reality doesn't match the hype. Maybe the case is too noisy, maybe the Wi-Fi drops in the middle of a match. Maybe the promised V-Ready label feels more like a marketing buzzword than a true experience. That gap between the picture-perfect listing and the everyday experience is why I'm doing this deep dive, so you can avoid the disappointment before you spend a chunk of your budget. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The CyberpowerPC Gamer Xtreme VR is marketed as a high-end, plug-and-play solution for anyone who wants to jump straight into ray-traced titles, VR worlds, and massive multiplayer battles without having to handpick each component. It comes with an Intel Core i9-14900KF, an RTX 4070 Ti, 32GB of DDR5, and a 2TB NVMe SSD, plus Wi-Fi connectivity and Windows 11 Home pre-installed. On paper, that stack reads like a ticket to the future. But the real question is how those pieces behave when you actually fire up Cyberpunk 2077 at 4K, strap on an Oculus Quest 2, or try to stream a game while the room's lights are flickering. First off, let's talk about the day-to-day setup. The tower arrives fully assembled, which is a relief if you're not comfortable with cable management or BIOS tweaks. You plug the power cord, connect your monitor, keyboard, and mouse, and the machine boots into Windows almost instantly, thanks to that 2TB SSD. In my own testing, the OS loaded in under 10 seconds, and games installed from the Microsoft Store or Steam launched with practically no waiting time. That instant feeling is a real win for anyone who doesn't want to stare at a loading screen for minutes every time they fire up Valorant or Apex Legends. Now, the RTX 4070 Ti is the star of the show. In a recent 1080p Fortnite session, the card held steady at 144 frames per second with max settings, and when I cranked the resolution to 1440p, it still delivered smooth performance, hovering just above 100 frames per second. The 12GB of VRAM gave it enough headroom for texture-heavy games like Red Dead Redemption 2, where I didn't see the stutter that cheaper GPUs often exhibit. For VR, the card meets the minimum 90 frames per second per eye guideline, so you won't be knocked out by motion sickness when you explore Half-Life, Alyx. The practical strength here is clear. You get a genuine high-end experience without having to upgrade your graphics card later. But the GPU isn't the whole story. The i9-14900KF is a beast for CPU-bound tasks. Think large-scale simulations, video editing, or the occasional 3D rendering. When I ran a quick 3-minute benchmark with Assassin's Creed Valhalla using the CPU-intensive AI settings, the frame rates stayed consistent, and the system never hit thermal throttling. That means if you also plan to do content creation or stream your gameplay on Twitch while playing, you have the headroom to do it. The 32GB of DDR5 memory further smooths multitasking. I could have a Discord voice channel, a Chrome tab with a music playlist, and a running game without the typical slowdown you see on 16GB setups. However, the value proposition starts to wobble when you look at the hidden trade-offs. The case, while sleek, uses a mid-range power supply that is just enough for the components but leaves little breathing room for future upgrades. If you ever wanted to add another GPU for a dual-card SLI experiment or even a more demanding water cooling loop, you'd probably need to replace the PSU, which adds cost and complexity. The cooling system itself is a set of three 120mm fans that keep temperatures within safe limits, but they aren't whisper quiet. In a small bedroom, the fans become noticeable during long gaming sessions, especially when the GPU is under load. That fan noise can be a distraction for players who rely on positional audio cues in competitive shooters. Connectivity is another area where the reality differs from the marketing gloss. The machine includes Wi-Fi 6, which, in my apartment with a decent router, gave me stable 200 megabits per second speeds without dropping packets, fine for online gaming and streaming. But the Ethernet port is a single gigabit jack, and the motherboard's layout makes cable routing a bit cramped. If you have a tidy desk setup or need a clean cable path for a streaming rig, you'll have to spend a few extra minutes managing the wires. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if aesthetics matter to you. One of the biggest practical strengths that often gets glossed over in spec sheets is the support package. CyberpowerPC offers a 1-year part and labor warranty plus free lifetime tech support. In practice, that means if you run into a dead SSD or a faulty fan, you can call the support line and get a replacement shipped without having to navigate a complicated claim process. For a pre-built system, that level of service can save you time and frustration, especially if you're not comfortable diagnosing.